Megan Imirowicz is accused of throwing lye and water on her father in 2021, causing severe burns that ultimately led to his death 5 months later. Right now, we want to take you into court to listen to the opening statements from today.
Thank you.
Good afternoon again, everyone. Criminal cases are always about choices and consequences. A person will make a choice to do something, and the consequences ensue. In our society, we hold people accountable for the choices and the consequences of their choices, and that is why we are here today. Because on October 1st, 2021, Megan Imirowicz made a choice to act, and the action led to the death of her father, Conrad Imirowicz. Megan turned 18 on September 29th of 2021. She was supposed to have a birthday party on the night of October 1st, 2021. She'd also made a hair appointment that day, so she was going to go and get her hair done and then go to this birthday party. So she woke up at home on October 1st, at the home she shares with her father, Conrad, and that was in Ortonville, Michigan, here in Oakland County. Now, Megan does not drive, so she needed Conrad to take her to the hair appointment. So she goes to get him, and she finds what I think you're going to hear is a familiar sight, which is that Conrad, even at 10 o'clock in the morning or so, was drunk. And he was actually so drunk he was effectively passed out. And this made her enraged. I think this was probably the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of the drinking, because it was a common occurrence. It was supposed to be her birthday party. That's supposed to be a good day, 18th birthday party with your friends. And now he was being drunk again and endangering it, and she absolutely blew her lid. So they started arguing, she wakes him up. They're talking, he's still extremely drunk. You're gonna find out that even later, when people first got there, he was still kind of out of it. And that he was still very drunk even then. And she starts throwing things at him. Just everything that's lying around. And you're gonna see in the photos, there was a lot of stuff lying around. But one of the things that you're gonna find out that she admitted to throwing at him was water. And another thing that she's gonna admit to throwing at him, as you're gonna see on a police interview video, is a white powder. A cleaning agent that she's going to say got in and around his legs. The product, of course, was lye. And I think you're going to find that the statement that there was a little bit of white powder was probably an understatement that she made to protect herself, because it was not just a little bit of white powder. Lye, of course, is a common product. It's an alkali. We use it in tons of things, soap, fertilizer, but it's also a household cleaner. It's available at pretty much any store. You can buy it at Ace Hardware, and it's used very commonly for dry cleaning, or for drain cleaning. It is dangerous to humans. Enough so that, as you're likely going to see, the bottle of lye in this particular case that was found at the scene has a big red skull and crossbones on the front. It says dangerous burns and other warnings right there on the front. It's useful stuff, but it is very dangerous. It's the sort of thing that you get out as the chemical big gun when the regular stuff that you use at home doesn't work. So she puts this on him, and it gets everywhere, and it's all over his skin because, unfortunately, Conrad was asleep on the couch, and he was effectively naked at the time. So all of this got in direct contact with his skin. Now, Megan has a friend come and pick her up, and she leaves to go to her hair appointment. Conrad is still passed out, so this stuff is just sitting on him, eating away at his flesh for a very long time. He doesn't wake up. It's a couple hours later when Megan calls a friend named Kayla from down the street to go and check on her dad, because Megan's out, she's trying to use the credit card, it's not working, and so she needs the number. So she calls Kayla, says, hey, can you go check on my dad and get the credit card? So Kayla goes in, walks in the house, it's unlocked. She walks up the stairs, turns to the left, and there's the couch, where Conrad still is, and there he is. He's covered in what we're going to find out are burns, chemical burns, that cover approximately 41% of his body. They are black, they are thick, they are deep. They are not going to be pleasant to look at. She calls Megan, of course, and talks to her. Megan kind of is just dismissive, doesn't really acknowledge what's going on. Kayla also calls her mom. She also calls Austin Imirowicz, who is Conrad's oldest son and Megan's older brother. Austin tells her to call 911. Of course, they show up. He's immediately taken by EMS to the hospital, to Ascension Genesis. And then it's there that Conrad says to Austin, and another friend who was with him, Lucas Kobe, in hearing of a nurse, whoever hears this, that Megan threw some powder on. This nurse, now believing that this might be an assault, calls 911 to report it as an assault, and the Michigan State Police get involved and start investigating. They eventually go locate where she is, which is at a hotel, when they finally get to talk to her. She's outside with some friends in a car. They go up to the vehicle. They ask if they can talk to her. She steps out, and she gives the interview that I've kind of already mentioned, where she effectively admits that she threw these things at her father. Conrad was in very bad shape, even then. On that same day, he's transferred to the burn unit at Hurley Medical Center in Flint. So he's there from October 1st until March 3rd, 2022. There's 153 days that they are trying to save his life. In that time, he has repeated infections from the wounds. He goes on dialysis because his kidneys are shot. He has both of his legs amputated. He has tracheotomy, and lots of other things go on while he's there. At the end of the 153 days, he goes home on hospice because he's decided to take himself off life support. He dies 3 days later at home on March 6, 2022. As I said, Megan Imirowicz made a choice, and the consequence led to the death of her father. We have charged Megan Imirowicz with one count of committing an unlawful act with a chemical irritant for an unlawful purpose causing death. This requires us to prove these are the elements of the offense.
Mr. DeSantis.
Yes. Can you wait outside?
Mayor, can you stay in the hall?
That's okay. Thank you. So the elements of the offense are the things I have to prove. They're the only things I have to prove. Now, you probably heard of words like motive. I don't have to prove motive. I think we will, but I don't think I have to. What I do have to prove is that on or about October 1st, 2021, in Oakland County, Michigan, that the defendant placed, used, or released a substance. That substance then that she possessed, placed, used, or released was a chemical irritant. The law defines that as a solid, liquid, or gas that through its chemical or physical properties, alone or in combination with one or more other substances, can be used to produce an irritant effect in humans, animals, or plants. Third, that the defendant possessed, placed, used, or released the chemical irritant to frighten, terrorize, intimidate, threaten, harass, injure, assault, batter, or kill Conrad Imirowicz. Fourth, the possession, place, and reuse or release of the chemical irritant resulted in the death of Conrad Imirowicz. Now, I want to talk for a moment about the third element there. That's the intent element. She did it for the purpose of this, right? You're going to have, generally this is one of those places where in a criminal case you have to infer intent. People don't usually declare out loud, what they were trying to do when they do something illegal. You do not have to all agree upon which intent of the list that you have there that it is. One of you may think it was to scare him. One of you may think it was to hurt him. One of you may think it was to kill him. You don't all have to agree on that part. A verdict has to be unanimous, but your rationale for getting there here does not. I think it's going to be pretty clear what the intent was. You only throw things at someone when you want to hit them with it. You only do that when you're angry. And you only throw things or put things on people when you want to hurt them or scare them or do any one of those things that you want to do that's a negative action towards them because you're upset and angry. And I would say this, I think you only put drain cleaner on someone when you want to hurt them or scare them. It is unfortunate that he was not in the kind of condition to wake up. She's also charged in an alternate with one count of domestic assault. So this is a charge you can consider if you don't all agree on count one of the unlawful use of chemical irritants. That says that the defendant assaulted and battered Conrad Imirowicz. A battery is defined as a forceful, violent, or offensive touching of a person or something closely connected with them. And then it must have been intended by the defendant, that is not an accident for the actual touching, and it must have been against Conrad Imirowicz's will. An assault is basically a battery that's not complete. So if I throw a punch at you, like this to scare you, it doesn't hit you, that's an assault, but not a battery. If I connect on the punch, that's a battery. Okay? So that's the difference. Assault cannot happen by accident. Second, at the time Conrad Imirowicz was a resident or former resident of the same household. So that's the domestic assault charge, that's the alternate. That's something for you to consider if you don't all agree on count one. Now, the standard to which I have to prove these things is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a phrase we've heard a lot already. It's a bit of a cliche to say that a criminal case is like a puzzle, but it is a useful way of analogizing this. Judge is going to give you clear instructions on what this means legally, but the way I like to think about it is, if you're making the puzzle, that's your job in this case. I have all the pieces. I'm going to give you the pieces over the course of the trial in the form of the evidence and the witness's testimony, and help you put it all together at the end. And when you make a puzzle, I think you all agree, at some point there comes, when you're doing it, a moment when you know what the picture of the puzzle is, even though the puzzle is not 100% complete, right? There will be pieces missing. There might even be a big gap missing, right? Because our standard is not 100%. It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt. You can't know anything beyond a shadow of a doubt where you are. The only way you could know that was if you were a witness, and if you had been there, if you had seen it. And then you wouldn't be in this chair, you'd be in that one, right? So our standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. A clear, honest doubt arising out of the evidence or lack of evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your patience and your patience and consideration to come. I believe when the proofs in this case are complete, you're going to be able to kind of answer the question that I had told you in jury selection a case is about. What happened, and did what happened break the law? I think you will have the evidence you need to determine the truth of what happened on October 1st, on what happened to Conrad Imirowicz, why he died, how he died, and who was responsible for it. I think the evidence is going to show that Megan Imirowicz made that choice, and it killed her father. So at the end of this trial, I ask you for a verdict that holds her responsible for her choices, and that will be a verdict of guilty as charged. Thank you.
Fairly short opening by the state. Let me know what you think at Ashley Court TV. Up next, we're going to have the defense's opening statement. Stay tuned. Michigan daughter now facing charges.
Megan Imirowicz is accused of throwing lye and water on her own father while he was sleeping.
The chemical reaction caused severe burns and ultimately his death.
Police caught up with the daughter, and she was arrested soon after.
The teen faces life in prison if convicted.
And Court TV will bring you inside the courtroom for every moment.
The Sleeping Father Death Trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Megan Imirowicz is standing trial accused of dousing her father with lye and water while he was sleeping. She faces charges including a felony charge and could spend life in prison if convicted by this jury. We want to get you back into the courtroom now as the defense is beginning their opening statements.
I'll let everybody know that you still haven't heard any evidence. It's early in this case. Now, what happened on that day was tragic, no question, but there's some more facts you need to know. His son, when he went to the hospital, talked to him. When he went to the hospital, his statements were, "I don't remember what happened." Mr. Imirowicz said that. When the young lady who was checking on him comes in, she walks in and says hello, and he responds. He didn't feel anything at that point in time. This is several hours later. His blood alcohol level was very high. And his son said, look, what he told me, him and Megan had a fight. Okay. They had a fight, they had an argument. She admitted she threw some bread at him and a couple other things. But that doesn't mean that she threw this stuff at him. Okay? Now, if you look at his blood alcohol level when he goes into the hospital, it's extremely high. And several hours earlier, frankly, he would have been dead if he had that blood alcohol level and hadn't been drinking. But he admitted to the son that after the argument, he was drinking again. Now, this stuff is all over his body. He went to take a nap. It was all over his body. The only one hands who have any damage are his. He's been rubbing this in. He's been sitting there, but he didn't feel anything. All right? This is a tragic situation. Throughout all the medical records, and I think we're going to admit the medical records, there's total probably 20,000 pages. Never once does he say, I remember what happened. Never once does he say Megan did it. Never once does he say or blame anyone for this. Now, he went through a horrific experience, but he was also an extreme alcoholic. So this is a bad situation. You're going to have to look at all the facts, all the situation, listen to all the testimony, and make up your mind. Now, it's early. You haven't heard anything. Please, please listen to everything and make up your mind. Okay? And thank you for your cooperation.